Hey tubers. So I have to tell you a quick story about what happened today. Um, because, well, I just have to. So I decided when I moved to Florida, because of all this terrorism shit, in order to get my driver's license changed over from Texas to Florida, I have to provide a birth certificate, my old driver's license, social security card, passport, or some combination of those. Because I never bothered, and I still don't think I'm ever going to bother to change my birth certificate, I made a decision, since they've changed the rules about passports, to go ahead and get a passport instead. And then when I go to the driver's license office, I can just take the passport and my old driver's license and my two proofs of residency. And I won't have to explain my name, I don't think. I hope not. So I went to the post office today with all my stuff that I had collected. I had to get a letter from my doctor, and that's what I had been waiting on all this time. And I go in there, and the little dude at the post office, he seemed kind of nice at first. And I went in, and I had all the paperwork that I needed. I even printed out the instructions from the Department of State about, what kind of things they need, so that the Department of State knows what, I didn't know if the postal guy did it. I hadn't done this in 20 years. So I told him when I started giving him my paperwork that it was kind of a special case, and I started to kind of explain it without explaining it. In other words, I just handed him papers and said, here's this one for this and that one for that, and so forth and so on. And he seemed to take it pretty well. He even took my picture, which, it's like the best picture ever. Like, look at that. I actually look really, well, I don't know. I think I look really good in that picture. But anyway, so it was all really good. At some point during all of this, though, I needed a box so I could send a gift to a friend. And so I asked him for the box. And in the midst of all the rigmarole of going around trying to get all this thing done with the passport, I forgot the box. So my kids and I walked out. And everything seemed fine. And as I'm going out the door, I realized I forgot the box. I gave the keys to the kids so they could go to the car. I turned around and walked back in. There was nobody else in there but this guy and one of the other employees. And you should be really careful about what you're doing when someone can just walk in right behind you. Because what I walked back into was this man with my papers in his hand, showing them to this woman, and very loudly pronouncing my birth name and laughing. Now, I get that it's a novelty. This is huge gossip. And I get that as soon as he saw all my paperwork, it was probably really hard for him to resist not going back and telling everybody in the place what he had just experienced. And because when you look at me now, there's no way in hell you would ever know, it tends to blow people's minds. I get all that. But one little piece of advice, if you're going to do that, at least have the courtesy to go in the back. Because I had this feeling everything was really okay when I walked out of there. And when I came back in, it was not as I had assumed it was. So now I'm worried. I'm hoping the man just sends my papers off like he's supposed to. And maybe he was just being, genuinely freaked out. He wasn't being negative about it. Maybe he was just, I don't know. But it happened. And it was rude. And it was uncomfortable. And it's one of those things that I guess at some point I'm going to have to just learn to deal with. The other reason I decided to go ahead and get the passport was because it gives me another form of identification with my proper gender and name on it in case I lose my driver's license or something happens to it. I think from a safety perspective, it just seemed like a wise thing to do. Sadly, of course, I already had a passport that was 20 years old. And it had a picture of me from 20 years ago. So he got to see the difference pretty significantly. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hope they send me my passport without any trouble. But yeah, I just thought I would share that with you. The wonderful world of being trans. Peace.